Before moving to our guests, we have a short film. It's a clip from a film which is called The Mind Has No Sex. It was made by a Dutch gender expert, Monica Bosch, and it will tell you the story of another small university, MIT. Mayan, are you making? Okay. Till it will be ready, I can tell you a big secret, big surprise. In this university, the Open University, there is a gender balance in faculty. No scissor diagram. Actually, I believe it's the only university that I know of that happened to be really balanced. I'm very proud. I cannot take credit for it. It was like this right from the beginning. Our advisor to the president for gender balance, Professor Ruth Beit-Marom, cannot be here today, but she follows that it will keep this way in the future too.
Well, I've been a professor at MIT for 31 years, and for many years I just kept my eyes on science and tried to imagine that everything was okay. But after 20 years, I had found out that it was not okay. I was a student at Harvard, and I had gone there wanting to major in mathematics. But the week I arrived, they told me that I couldn't major in math because I didn't come with enough background in mathematics. So I really was casting about for something else to do. So I went and took a biology class, and one of the professors was a man named James D. Watson, who discovered the structure of DNA. And he came in, and it was 1963, and the genetic code was being cracked, and he was running in with codons. And by the end of the first hour, I was so excited, I just couldn't believe what I just heard. And I just ran to his laboratory and said, I have to work in this, I have to work in this. And I worked in his lab when I was an undergraduate at Harvard, and he strongly encouraged me to go into a career in science. And I wanted to do it, but it was really quite a stretch to imagine doing it for a woman of my generation. I looked around and I saw that men were working 70 hours a week, young people at the bench, and they were married and had children and already, and I thought that that was the reason that women didn't go into science. I didn't then understand there were many reasons. But I consciously chose not to marry, not to have children, and to just do science. And that's why it never occurred to me, having made that choice, that I would have any problem as a woman in science. I thought that was the only problem. And I found out, even so, you still had a problem. So this is my lab, and this is a standard module, and this is the kind of bench space you need for molecular biology. And I had just 2 such modules. I often say these, if they had just given me these coat closets, maybe none of this would have ever happened, you know.
What's with the closets?
Well, the original thing that I fought for almost a year to get was this space here. These were coat closets, and we needed them for the laboratory equipment so that we could do our experiments without having to walk a very long distance to get just a piece of glassware. So when I tried to tell administrators what was wrong about how I was unable to get equal space relative to other faculty, how things I asked for nobody responded, they really didn't understand. They didn't know if it was my specific problem or what. Finally, I wrote a letter to the president of MIT, Charles Vest, and I said, there's terrible discrimination here in this institution, and you should fix it. And I decided that before I sent the letter, I should show this letter to somebody and have them check and make sure it wasn't going to offend the president. So I chose a woman that I really barely knew, but she was so successful scientifically, I really valued her judgment. And she took the letter, and she read it, and her face was very serious. And when she got to the bottom of the letter, she laid it down on the table and she said, I'd like to sign this letter, and I think we should go and see the president of MIT. I agree with everything you've said. So she and I looked at each other and she said, do you think there could be other women who feel as we do?
Hopkins stelde een lijst op van alle vrouwen van de Beta-faculteit en vroeg naar hun ervaringen.
And I went to the first one and I said, have you ever had an experience like this where you tried to get something that everybody else already had and you couldn't get it? she said, "Do you have anything I can sign?" So I said, "Well, not yet, but maybe later." So that was how we got started. By the end of the first day, we had rounded up 10 of these women, and they all wanted to sign something, because each one had independently come to see that something wasn't right in this system. After 20 years of this, I knew that I was just like those other women, that I too was not being treated fairly. And at that point, I became so demoralized that I really felt I couldn't continue unless something were done to fix this problem.
Hopkins besloot om met alle vrouwen van de faculteit opnieuw naar de decaan te gaan om hem te vragen de zaak opnieuw te onderzoeken.
And he said, when Nancy came to see me, she was one person, and I didn't know what to make of what she was saying. But when 16 out of 17 women sign a document that says there's discrimination in this institution, we have to study this. And so he helped us to set up a committee to study this problem. After we'd collected the data and done the interviews, we wrote down a very long, detailed report, which in the end was about 150 pages long. But the thing is, it wasn't public, this study, and so at that point, really, it would have been a short, happy outcome, but it would not have had a lasting impact on MIT, and certainly would not have affected any other institution. So President Vest wrote a comment that turned out to be terribly important. He sent back this comment that said, "I've always believed that gender discrimination is part perception, part reality, but now I understand that reality is the better part of it." And that comment came over my email, and I looked at this comment on the screen, and I really cried. I just sat and looked at this, and I said, finally, not did just somebody come to understand the reality of this terrible problem, but the most powerful man in the institution came to understand the reality of this and to support women in this problem. Then 2 days later, it appeared on the front page of the New York Times. And after that, our lives were changed very much, because the New York Times is read by just everybody. And women from all over the United States who do science, had tried to do science, wrote to myself, to President Vest, to Dean Bergeneau, to Lottie Balin, saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. You have no idea. I have the same problem and nobody will listen to me." And so it turned out to be this very widespread problem which people had not acknowledged and which women could not get people to hear. When I went into biology 40 years ago, people said, "Can women be great biologists, really?" And at the time, they knew they could be great students in classes in biology, but could they be great researchers, you know? And as I say, today, I've known 3 women who won the Nobel Prize in Medicine. Now today, what people say is, well, we always knew women could do biology because that's a much more human subject, and women love human subjects. So of course they can do biology, but what they can't do is math. Okay, so this is a moving target. It's moved from biology to chemistry to physics and math. And those are the sort of last holdouts.